Ready for your fast pass to unforgettable adventures? Welcome to Talk Travel to Me. Featuring our Mickey Guru Travel Company expert travel advisors, this podcast will guide you in traveling with more ease, confidence, and a sprinkle of magic. Tune in for unique insights, insider info, tips, and personal travel stories that'll transform your journeys into exhilarating moments and lifelong memories. Fasten your seatbelt, grab your passport, let's embark, and let's talk travel.
If you've looked at the headlines lately, or even just your own calendar for 2026, you've probably felt it. That heaviness, that sense that life is moving just a little too fast, and the moments that actually matter, those moments of true joy and connection, are getting buried under a mountain of worries and have-to-dos. I'm Kristy Ouellette, and I am so excited to welcome you to the premiere of a brand new 6-part series right here on the Talk Travel to Me podcast. I've decided to call this series Scripting the Magic, your 2026 Walt Disney World Vacation Planning Guide. And I'm going to ask you to stick with me as I use metaphors around writing and producing movies, okay? It's a bit of a departure for me, but I love the imagery of thinking of your vacation as a movie we are producing together. I believe that creating true space to connect with the important people in our lives and ourselves, shout out to solo trips, is the most important thing we can do. In a world that feels loud and chaotic, setting aside time for intentional connection isn't just a nice to have. It's absolutely crucial for our well-being. For many of us, that dream setting happens at Walt Disney World. But let's be real for a second. If you've started looking into a 2026 trip, you've probably hit a wall. In the film industry, they call it a development hell. It's the stage where a great idea gets stuck in endless rewrites and planning meetings and then never actually makes it to the screen. Industry estimates suggest that roughly 90% or more of initiated projects are either abandoned, canceled, or remain stuck in development hell indefinitely. Ugh. And when we look at this concept through a travel planning lens, this is the stage where you have 50 browser tabs open, you're reading conflicting advice in Facebook groups, you've fallen down the Reddit rabbit hole, and you feel like you need a PhD in logistics just to pick a hotel. You are listening to friends say, oh, you can't get a Disney vacation for less than $20,000. And you just want to experience a magical moment with your family. That decision fatigue is real. It's heavy. And it's the number one reason why so many magical vacations stay stuck in the dream phase and never make it to the calendar. You're out there trying to be the director, the lead actor, the set designer, the seamstress, and the accountant all at once. Oh yeah, well, also trying to work a full-time job, raise a family, get the dog to the vet, do your share of carpooling, that list goes on. I mean, you know the drill. You live it every single day. That is exactly why my team of professional travel agents and I are stepping in as your executive producers. This is a role we know well. We work with hundreds of families every year to move their vacations out of development and into production. So over the next 6 episodes, we're going to do 2 things. First, we're going to speak to you, the listener, and provide the industry masterclass. We're breaking down the complex Disney machine into manageable pieces so that you can find your footing and move forward with confidence. You will no doubt leave this series with a clear vision and a solid script for what you want your 2026 trip to be. Now, we are also willing to plus up the experience with the opportunity to work with us one-on-one. This is where we take that vision you've created and handle the entire production for you. When you choose to book your vacation with us, we aren't just giving you advice. We are handling the technical logistics, the scheduling, and all of the behind-the-scenes heavy lifting. And our goal is simple. We want to manage the production so that you can stay focused on being the main character of your vacation story. We ensure that when you step into that set at Walt Disney World, you aren't worried about the script or the lighting. You're just there living in the moment. Now, before we get started, I'm going to recommend that you hop over to the show notes and download the 2026 vacation planning worksheet we have waiting for you there. This little sheet will help you figure out what's important to you and the people you'll be traveling with. In fact, I encourage you to use it as a conversation starter tonight during dinner. We're going to get started with the heart of the plan, determining the why behind your trip, deciding on the ideal setting, and then the ideal runtime or pace of your vacation. Is your vacation going to be something along the lines of a Pixar short or one of the Avatar movies? And my goodness, those movies are way too long. But before we digress into that, before a single camera rolls, a director has to know, what is the heart of this story? We need to uncover the emotion of the experience before we ever talk about hotel rooms or ticket types. So I want to ask you, what do you want to feel during this vacation? Do you want your movie to be an action-packed adventure like Star Wars or Indiana Jones? Or are you more interested in feeling relaxed and focused on the quiet moments of connection? And that brings up The Notebook for me. Hopefully your vacation story is significantly less sad, but the understanding that that true emotion there is definitely part of the beauty of The Notebook. What do you want your kids to remember 3 years from now? What do you want to remember? So I want you to take a few moments and imagine that final scene of your production, that moment when you're sitting on the plane heading home. What does that look like? How do you feel? What are you wanting to remember? Now, to help your heart find its happy place, let's look at some of the most popular genres that our clients choose. One of them is actually the hero's journey, and that's the year when their youngest child is finally brave enough to tackle the mountains. And the script is about triumph and growth and the look of pure pride on their faces after they got off Space Mountain for the first time. We also have the legacy sequel, and that is when your families are coming together, bringing grandparents and your children, maybe aunts and cousins and all of that. It's about passing the torch and the opportunity to stand and watch your parents see the magic through your children's eyes. It's all about creating memories together in the story of your heritage. Now, let's be real. Maybe this trip isn't just for the kids. Heck, maybe there aren't even any kids involved. And this is where I find the rediscovery edit, where your inner child is the one that we're catering the vacation to. In the loud to-do list world of 2026, many directors need to take a script that lets them play again, trading your project manager hat or your lawyer hat for a pair of Mickey ears and remembering what it feels like to have zero responsibilities. There's also the opportunity to bond over Star Wars and Marvel or Avatar and take that situation from your couch at home where you've watched these movies together for years and actually go to the place where all that magic is happening. And then my personal favorite right now, especially at this time in history, is the safe harbor feature, that sanctuary, where sometimes the why behind the trip is just a sense of peace. You need a week inside that Disney bubble where the world is curated, the grass in the hub of Magic Kingdom is always green, and the chaos of the news cycle can't reach you. Number one reason that I am sitting here in the beginning of February trying to figure out how in the world I'm going to get myself back into that Disney bubble as soon as possible. So a lot of people come to us and they'll say, I need to do this because, every kid needs to go to Disney, right? I need to get a picture of my family in front of the castle. But as your executive producer, I know the real why is usually a week where you don't have to look at your phone, where you can decide to just let go and enjoy. So whether your script is an action-packed adventure or a slow-paced family drama, your why is a lens through which we view every subsequent decision. We protect that vision by handling the logistical noise, and then when the cameras roll, you can actually be present to enjoy all of that magic. So once we have the script and we understand the why, the motivation around a trip, we need to then move to choosing the right timing on the calendar. This is everything because there is no slow season at Walt Disney World anymore. We just have different crowd levels that we can expect at different times of year. So often I'll have a client come to me and they'll say, oh yeah, I want to go to Disney World and I can go whenever. When's the deals? When's there going to be no crowd? Like all of that kind of stuff. And they're, you're like, oh, well, we can talk about the lower crowd levels, and people come back and, and I may say to them like, okay, well, let's look at the end of August, beginning of September. That actually is going to be one of the least crowded times. And they're like, oh no, I'm a high school teacher. I can't go then. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to uncover the rule of 3. And that is first and foremost, cast availability. If you're making a movie and you want Jennifer Aniston to be in it, you need to make sure Jennifer Aniston is available. Same thing with your vacation. If you are, let's say, an accountant, you are not going on vacation January to mid-April, usually May. My accountant is actually a client of ours, and their vacations usually start in the beginning of June. So understanding what your travel party's particular restraints are around timing. If you're a high school teacher, you are not going anywhere in October, right? You're in the middle of the school season. So if you figure out if your group is bound by a school calendar, by your professional calendar, your responsibilities, what flexibility in there do you have? I highly recommend sitting with a planner and just looking at the year in a whole and being like, when is the best time for our family? You also want to consider weather. That's number 2 in the rule of 3. Florida has a different weather than most of the rest of the country. So it is important to think about this in terms of how does your group handle humidity and heat? How does your group handle the cooler weather? What is the preferred? I personally do not love Walt Disney World in July. Now, if you look back through my Instagram scroll, you'll know I go there in July quite frequently, but my idea is not hanging out when it is so humid. But some people love that time frame. They love that heat. They love to be able to go and spend days at the water parks and use the pools and like all of that. So it's something to consider about your particular group. And then third and final rule is the special effects. Are you wanting to attend a specific festival at Epcot? Do you want to be there during the not so scary Halloween season? Or do you want to be there for a Broadway show productions? Do you want to be there to take in the holiday displays? What is really important for you on this particular trip? Again, anyone could Google a crowd calendar, but those are based on old footage. In 2026, we are seeing that real-time shifts in attendance based on Disney's ability to manipulate the calendar. What used to be a really slow time to go was September and October. And so Disney just made Halloween last from August until the end of October. We still see some slowness in September, but October is now one of the busiest months of the year. So really looking at what works best for your travel party, your cast, is where you want to focus that energy. All right. Let's now talk about the runtime of your movie, the duration and the pace. This movie can feel a little too rushed if you go too short, and one too long can lose the audience. So we need to find your Goldilocks runtime to prevent that vacation burnout. It's tempting to think a shorter trip, like a 3-day trip, saves you money. But in my experience, a rush trip is the most expensive mistake you can make because you come home exhausted instead of refreshed. You also come home thinking about all the things you didn't get to do instead of all the things you were able to experience. So I tend to look for the sweet spots, somewhere between 6 and 9 nights that will allow for white space in the script. Now, I am a huge believer in the half-day philosophy. Instead of a 12-hour filming day, we do a strong morning scene, return to the resort for intermission at the pool, taking a nap, and then heading back at night for that grand finale. First timers often try to squeeze everything into 72 hours, but they end up losing the very joy they went for. So for some families, I advocate for the idea of a complete rest day or a half day because we know an itinerary needs room to breathe. When we build your plan, we aren't just booking days, we're crafting a pace that ensures you come home refreshed, not exhausted. And that does truly look different for every single traveler. I am working with a client right now that is going for their first trip, and it's 2 adults and a 6-year-old little girl. They are extremely excited about this trip, but they also know that their daughter requires a rest in the middle of the day. She doesn't necessarily nap anymore, although she will. We talked extensively about quiet places that they can recharge in each of the parks. Because, again, she's not really a sleeper, but she needs a place where we can kind of just power down and relax for a little bit. I'm working with another client that has 2 toddlers. I guess one of them is 2 and one of them is 4, so a toddler and a preschooler. And their plan is actually going to be to go back to the resort midday and relax, get away from the hottest part of the day and the part that there's usually a rainstorm, and then come back at night. This means we chose a hotel that was going to be really convenient to the park they are most excited to visit, the one that they probably will spend the most amount of time at, which is the Magic Kingdom. So they're staying at the Contemporary so that when it's time to head back, they just stroll on back to the building, take their rest, and then they can go off on the rest of their journey. So everybody's pace during their trip is going to be different. This is where we really get into the nitty-gritty, and I want you to really think about what kind of pace you want. The idea that you're going to go, 65 miles an hour for 7 days in a row is just not realistic if you want to preserve your family relationships and your sanity. So stopping to think about what that looks like for you and then balancing that with the costs. Certainly, it's kind of a dramatic example, but if you live local to Walt Disney World, like maybe within an hour's distance of a drive, you don't have to think about that too much. You just go, you play, you have fun for the day, and you come home. But I'm coming from New Hampshire, so that means I am going to take a plane to get there and back. So when I think about the time commitment and the expense of those flights, I try to measure it against the idea that we want to pay once for the flight and then be there long enough that we have multiple days to enjoy the vacation before we make the trek back home again. And really, your flights can sometimes be one of the most expensive parts of your entire trip. So depending on what that looks like for you, should be factored into that equation. All right, take some time to think about that. And then I'd love to have you share your thoughts with me. Either drop me an email, Kristy@mickiguru.com, KRISTY@mickiguru.com. You can also text the show. The phone number is right in the show notes. Or you can reach out to us via Instagram at Talk Travel to Me Pod. I would love to hear what your worksheet looks like, what surprises you found when you got real quiet and focused in on that, and then also when you opened it up to a discussion with the rest of your travel partner. This finishes scene 1 of the journey. We've moved out of development hell and into the start of a solid script. Next week, we're diving into the production budget. How to craft an investment that doesn't just look good on paper, but actually delivers the value, the true value for your family. And hey, if all of this has made you think, I definitely don't want to do this alone, you don't even need to hear the next part before you know that for sure, head over to mickiguru.com and reach out. We would love to be your executive producers and make this vacation happen for you and your loved ones this year. I'll see you real soon.
Thanks for listening to Talk Travel to Me. We hope this episode cracked open inspiration for the treasures that await you at your next dream destination. If you love the show, please review, subscribe, and share it with a friend. At Mickey Guru Travel Company, we're your trusted guides for theme parks, cruises, resorts, and more. Visit our website at mickey guru.com to learn more and book your vacation today.